Yes, I did. All right. Welcome, everybody, or nobody. Me and Joe are trying and testing out something new here on my channel that I want to do, which I'm calling Soulfire Sessions, which is where I will dive deeply into one gene key that you have in your particular path or your actual diagram, and we'll go a little deeper into that. And so the gene key we're diving into today is the attraction gene key, which is on your Venus path. And for Joe, that's gene key 47.3. So first I want to say welcome, Joe. Thanks for being my guinea pig.
Of course. That's what it says up here, guinea pig.
Well, the reason, and he knows this, the reason I asked Joe to be on here, be the first person, is he's already had his gene keys done with me. So he's pretty well versed in that. And we both agreed this is probably a key that has affected him the most. I would say, what, the last 7 months?
Yes. Tuesday. Oh my God.
You make it seem so bad.
But this like camera thing and your streaming plot, whatever
Yeah.
it's like shows everything. Like it shows craters and like.
Hey, that's it, right? It's
I'm
truth.
kidding.
It's on it. No, I agree with you. I look like I need about a week of sleep. So
you have high hair today.
yeah.
At least you have hair. Shit.
Listen. Right? I wasn't even talking about that, but thanks, Joe. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, so let's.
Question: Is it possible that one key has more like impact? I guess you could say just one's life, or they're all equal, or because I always seem to come back to this freaking key. Why?
I would say they're all pretty equal. You know what I mean? Like, it just depends where in your life you are and what's important to you. That's a great question. Because there's the pearl path, which is all work and purpose. And what are you here to do? And so some people that might be more important, but everybody seems to want to know about the relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why I chose this key. It's what you and I have worked on. And the attraction key is basically what you will attract into your life the rest of your life until you really work with these energy blocks. And that's how I look at gene keys, as energy blocks.
Right. So is that saying then that I'm not trying to get rid of something?
Right.
It's just the awareness that it's there. And it's going to keep coming.
Right. And it's how do I alchemize it, right? Or transcend it or work with it. It's how do I find the kind of nugget in the darkness to transition this energy from this frequency to another frequency.
Okay.
So yeah, you're totally going to always be attracting this until you kind of work with that. And so that's why I know Richard Rudd says gene keys are something you can work with the rest of your life. And that's why you'll see as you fix it in one area, you'll bump into it in another, which you've experienced.
Big time.
So let's dive into yours quick so we can kind of get to the nuts and bolts of this. Your gene key is 47.3. So what does that mean? The key to that, the gene key is that he's dealing with is what I call oppression. Well, Richard Rudd calls it oppression, but I call it transforming challenges for growth.
Okay. It's a nicer way of putting oppression.
Well, and so just to give you guys a frame of reference, each gene key comes with, it has 3 parts, right? It's got the shadow, the gift, and what we call the city, or where you would like to go to really your enlightenment of this key, where you really transform that energy. And so just to give everybody,
is that the like the actualization of the key?
Yeah, right. Okay. That's when you're no longer bumping into that, right? You've basically transformed that energy and are now vibrating at a new frequency. And so that old shadow energy is not going to come around anymore.
Right.
So
is that kind of a not a goal per se, but that's is the mark, not the measuring stick, I guess you could say, in terms of that
Yeah,
key and transcending and transmuting these shadows that overtake me when I'm not aware.
right.
Is city. I've realized this key when I'm in that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's what we all attain to. You know what I mean? And a lot of us probably won't see it in our lifetime, or we'll come close to it, or we will. You know what I mean? Like, you just never know at what key you're dealing with what in your life. So, just to give people a basic idea of the foundation of the key that we're talking to with Joe, we'll dive into that, and then him and I can really get into the meat of it. And so, for him, the shadow of this key is feeling drained, especially in relationships, and fearing being overwhelmed. And this includes carrying the weight of what we call ancestral baggage and human karma. So it's the fear of the unknown that, right, everybody on this planet feels, but it's really going to be even amplified in you. So that's his shadow that he's dealing with, and on a basic form. And then the gift in that is turning challenges into opportunities for personal growth. Right? Sounds simple enough. Like Joe said, I've really made this super simple and relative in a way that people can understand versus how you'll actually read it in, let's say, the Gene Keys book. Same premises, though. I haven't changed or altered anything that way. And then the city of that is attaining a higher state of consciousness through profound transformation. So
Why got to be profound?
because come on, all transformation is profound. So how do we get into that? Like, right, what's the nuts and bolts? Where's this going to show up? And for you, like we've talked about, these are all your relationships that are going to be in your life. You're going to keep attracting these people that are going to trigger this feeling of overwhelmness. So it's work life, love life, family dynamics. So, in work, you might feel exhausted due to not being recognized for your efforts. Or sticking with a job that you don't really like. For a love life, it may be in an unbalanced relationship where you're doing all the giving or excessive demands. For your family dynamics, it might be dealing with emotional challenges without enough support, where you're kind of taking everything on your shoulder and nobody's there really backing you up. Does this relate to you? Like, can you feel this?
No headache. Okay. It's the shadow. The oppression. Well, what helps me is to know that I'm not crazy. It's like that something's wrong with me.
Right.
I think when I first started to learn about the keys, and especially this particular one, it and I that is the beauty of the keys, is that you get to go back and contemplate. I know that's a word that many people get, and others are like, "What the heck is that?" You know. And for me, I think that's where my breakthroughs have come through, because I typically want someone just tell me, you know,
Right.
tell me what that means, or tell me what to do, or tell me how to be. And what you really emphasize is, I don't have the answers, you have the answers. I can give you questions to prompt. So when you give me my blueprint and you put after each key, here are some questions you can, ask yourself. And in all transparency, in the very beginning, of course, it's alive, and it's like, yes, I want to know this. And I've asked those questions. I want to get to the point where they're automatic, right? So the questions come up, and I haven't done that because I'm noticing oppression. The gift is here. Do I have to unwrap it? Shit. It's like, can I just keep it? I know what's in the package. I know what the gift is. Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's interesting because I still think it's a cloud.
Would you say, though, that you find relativity to that of feeling oppressed, of feeling overwhelmed? Has your relationships felt unbalanced?
Because I try so hard to keep them.
Right.
So I love people, and I know when I like someone a lot, whether it be in a friendship or in a love relationship or something, I don't want them to leave. And so that's where, you know, the shadow shows up in terms of overgiving, you know, and how I have been in my life in relationships, you know, which is um, preventing myself from being heard and seen,
Mhm.
and really just speaking up for myself, to be honest, you know, to the point where I can see where that oppression comes in, you know, because it's so heavy for me to make sure that this other person likes me, right? And it's more around keeping them than it is I just want you to like me, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, or at least that's what I'm telling myself right now. No, it's just because I think, you know, with all the work that I have done, and then, you know, you've been such a great space, you know,
Mhm.
along with my other divine, you know, family who have helped me a lot in that sense. I just, it's, I think this is a huge one for me, this
Right.
attraction key, because I keep coming up against the wall and going through the same motions over and over again, feeling it in my body, like cowering and going in. And it just gets really frustrating. And
Mhm.
it gets, I know that I can beat myself up saying, I should be over this already. I've had these damn gene keys for how long? And look, so there's that, you got to get better, or, you know, that thing happening. So, anyhow,
Well,
oppression.
and I think that's important for people to understand when you start working with things like this, gene keys, human design, I don't care, natal chart, any of these. It's going to take time. Like this isn't something like you said, and people can't beat myself up and go, okay, I know, so this shouldn't be happening. But I think that's the beauty of gene keys is understanding that,
Mhm.
right, you were born with this. You inherently came in with these energy blocks, which means it's going to be something you're going to deal with your entire life.
Right.
Right. So it's not going to be something that you're just going to get over. But it's now that I know, right? It's the old adage of people go, I don't understand why I keep attracting the same type of person.
Mm.
This
Now,
is the key.
could you do me a favor? Do you have my blueprint by chance, specifically mine?
Yeah.
Um, could you read just a few half of the gift of is it gift, the shadow of oppression?
The shadow is, yeah, let me pull up your actual,
I think I found mine.
because I've gone through and made this way more relatable since I realized Joe was
Right.
struggling so much to use it.
Yeah. What may I read what you sent
Yeah.
me
Go ahead.
initially? Um, so the shadow of oppression is also called the magic mirror.
Mhm.
Ouch. I don't like that. I don't like mirrors. Um, that is interesting. The denial of our own shadow dishonors us, and life itself. Excuse me, y'all know that I can't see that well. It's listening to others through our own agenda
Mhm.
and hearing only what we want to hear. And this creates a biofeedback loop that conceals more and more repressed memories. It reinforces our self limiting patterns and accumulates more karma. Right. Sorry. Most people do not even realize that they are suffering. That's amazing. We try to escape feeling our suffering in many different ways through work, being distracted through our senses, or by innocently projecting our unwanted emotions or traits onto others. Yet to claim ownership of our suffering, excuse me, we must look within. It is wired inside of us. Oppression comes with the vehicle. We must own it, and while we're here, excuse me, only when we're able to face our suffering in an open way will we find the hidden meaning within it.
Mhm.
What does that mean in an open way?
Without judgment.
Oh, okay. Like the observing of it, you
Right,
know.
right. It's like we like to judge ourselves for right, like you just said, I should know better. I'm still working on this thing. That's a judgment. That's not open. It's not open to saying, let this teach me, let it show me without judgment and understand that I am still learning and growing, right? It's looking past that and allowing yourself the openness to just experience it.
Okay, so may I ask, we've known each other for 4 almost, yeah, 3.5 years now. And of course, every year in a friendship, we get to know each other. And then my personal philosophy is like, when you get really close with someone, you start to see their flaws,
Yeah.
right? The real ones, right? And when I say flaws, it's probably shadows. And so I'm going to ask you to reflect back to me, if you would, one or two incidents that you see are recurring, that
Mm.
where the shadow of oppression shows up. Where do you see that show up for me?
I see it. I
One,
mean,
just one maybe, because you're like, "Mad."
no, I think in him and we've talked about this, and I've seen how the shadow of oppression can show up for you, and especially in relating to different people in your life.
Mhm.
Meaning, like, right, for women, and it doesn't really matter what type of women, you tend to really dull your light. You tend to really kind of go, I don't. It's like a whole different guy. You know what I mean? Like you totally just shut down and just are very catering to that. And yet, if you put yourself around other men, you're good. Do you know what I mean? You're like, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is what and the reason I know this is right. We had a project we were working on, and it's just shown up in different areas of your life, and it's just continued to show up. And I think it's still something I would say that you're looking into.
It is, yeah. That's why I'm kind of hungry, right, to identify those things that are recurring that maybe I don't see. And so I do ask close friends or people who I trust, like, provide me a reflection of
Mhm.
where does it show up. So that's where that came from,
Well, that
because
mirror.
right.
Right, it's that mirror, and so I think that's key because we don't let's face it, nobody likes the mirrors,
Right.
but everybody in our life is reflecting back to us something.
Mm.
Right, there's something in that, and if you pay attention and you can kind of get out of the zone of judgment and get into the zone of I'm gonna step away from this and kind of look in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. You know what, Beckett? I was reading the first line in the Shadow of Oppression, the one that you sent me initially,
Mhm.
and it says it's the denial of our own shadow dishonors us and life itself.
Right.
I, the denial of our own shadow, and I didn't want to look at any shadows. I was afraid of the dark. This is where I remember now. It's that deja vu moment where it's like, oh yeah, I remember in the reading that you gave me earlier this year. It was like um, one of those epiphanies, those aha moments that I so want all the time. It seems right, and
Yeah.
it's because like even just recently, right, me identifying that I've been like the classic model for people pleaser.
Hmm.
I mean, and I'm the denial of my own shadow, right? It dishonors me and it dishonors life.
Yeah.
And so I see like the connection to what's happened in my body and diabetes. When you look
Mhm.
at the emotional impact from diabetes is forgot or lost the sweetness of life. That's why authenticity is a higher vibration than love.
Mhm.
I'm getting these. This is good. I was gonna say, are we recording this? I'm like, duh, we're live.
Right. Well, and that's right. This is why everybody, especially why I want to do the attraction key with people, is because what does people most struggle with? All of us. Why do I keep going into this? Why am I? And it's like, because you're not dealing with the shadow, right? So many people jump from relationship to relationship, or, and just go, well, it's the other people. It's their fault. And it's like, no, the common denominator here is you.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, when we deny our own shadow, like in your case, you're denying. You can't give to other people what you can't give to yourself. And if you can't honor your own shadow, then you can't recognize shadows in other people.
So that's exactly where I got it is a part of who I am, right? And I
Yeah.
think just my upbringing and just I think just society in itself is like the darkness is bad,
Right.
right? Dark is bad.
Right.
It's all about love and light. So in that programming and going into the shadow is really where all the answers, the gifts, the love, the acceptances. And I think what Jinkies has done has shown me that totality, right? The shadow and the light. If you wouldn't mind, because this is really hitting me, dude. It said, it says, it's listening to others through our own agenda.
Yeah.
And only hearing what we want to hear. So I know that when you first did the reading, it was like, and you kind of not warned me, but you know me really well. So you're like, okay, like hold on, because I was going to go to judgment right away.
Right.
And when I saw and you explained that, shadow and light thing, I'm like, I have been denying my shadow. Where did the freedom come? In the freaking shadow. Not that I want to live there. It's just the awareness of it. And that's where I started to have the deeper depths of love, because it was, like light is easy to love.
Yeah.
Just show me your fucking darkness. Right. So I really appreciate about what you do for humanity and what you've done for others that I, have shared human design and gene keys. But just even sitting here and then contemplating it, it's like, where does that show up, and what is the evidence of that? I can see it, right? So let's get out of the shadow and let's go to the gift.
Well, and I think for you, I mean, you've been dealing with this for 7 months, and I've said this, you're definitely in that gift phase.
Yeah.
Of transmuting, because you've worked on it. And yes, he's worked on it literally for 7 months and counting. And that's the point. This is going to ebb and flow and pop in. And I think, right, when I look at I came up with the new readings that I'm giving too are like everyday wisdoms for growth. So for you, it's like see beyond the labels.
Yeah.
Which is look past the surface judgments of yourself and others, and understanding that everyone is on a unique journey of transformation, right? Through your own perception, which you kind of already have embodied. I mean, some of this is innately already in you.
Yeah.
The wisdom beyond experience, seek universal wisdom in challenging situations, going beyond your personal experience, which
Right.
you very much advocate to, and unity and diversity, right? That's the city, which is your harmony. Right, which is embracing connections despite differences and recognizing the shared humanity that binds us. No, in the new readings, it will say that.
I was like, what?
That's so it does say that, but in a more in-depth way in the booklet that I gave you. And so I wanted to break it down to like, how can I, like you said, how do I understand this in my everyday living?
Yeah.
And that right there is the shadow, the gift, and the city broken down in everyday living, right? So where do you want to get to is the unity and diversity without any judgments, but that also has to include you.
Yes. And okay, what you have been sharing with me, and of course, this is kind of consciousness 101 almost. And many times it's about keeping the main thing, right? Just keeping it basic. And you keep reminding me about the polarity, right? And this idea of balance. And the other day, I think we were debriefing on one of our talks, and I was like, that's where I'm feeling peace, actually,
Mhm.
is in that sitting in both,
Yeah.
right? That genius of the
Yeah.
and
That's the keys.
yeah. So I know
Yeah. It's
my
no.
podcast. We're gonna talk about polarity.
Well, but that is, why this is such an asset to people in personal development and growth, right? And inner transformation is we live on a planet that is frequency based in polarity. Good,
Mhm.
bad, black, white, right? That is the frequency of this planet. That's what you came here to experience. And so to
Right.
me, the gene keys is the embodiment of that. It's here is your polarities. How do you learn to sit in the middle and yet love both?
Yeah.
Right? How do you sit at a table like you hear so much with somebody that you strongly dislike, not to change them, not to convince them why you're right, but just to love and honor them for exactly who they are in their differences and be able to walk away and say, we don't agree, but I love you anyway.
Mm.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we can learn to do that within ourselves, which to me is what the bread and butter of Gene Keys is. Learning to do that with yourself, and especially an attraction key. If I can learn what you're going through right now in your key, right? No judgment of yourself, to honor your shadow and your good things, to say I can be a saint and a villain,
Oof.
depending, right? Like I
Yeah.
love both sides of me and understand that both sides will have their opportunity of coming out. And do I love those? Yes. And how can I love the villain as much as I love the saint?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that I am drawn to people who are in that space. I
Mhm.
can just tell there's just like kinship with when when they express themselves or they talk or they share or it's just an evidence in their lives. So yeah, I love that.
That's the key. That's the key to this key, really, for
Yeah.
you, especially, and anybody else that has this key in this attraction phase of how do I learn? Because you're going to constantly be bringing in those people who have that energy to bump you out of that, who either make you want to dumb yourself down
Mm-hmm.
so you like them,
Right.
right? Or prove yourself that you're, again, drain you. Because if the relationship for you is draining, and this sounds very like duh, but we all do weird stuff in
Right.
love, work, relationships. It's not for you.
Yeah. Right.
Without judgment, right? How can you still love that person and go, okay, you're draining me, I'm allowing you to drain me, I love you, I love me more, I'm out.
Mm.
Right? Because one of the core exercises for you to get through this is setting good boundaries.
That's been that. Yeah, I definitely have seen that 1,000%. And as I've exercised and have implemented those boundaries in important relationships, I can see the fruit of that. People resist because that's not the Joe I want. You're the
Right.
one who I could just walk all over, remember? You're the one that would agree with everything. You're not doing that. What's up? Right? Or if there's something that they're used, a behavior of mine, right? I'm calling back quickly, or I'm gonna text back and say, okay, I'm on another call. Can you do that? I mean, little things like that.
Right.
I'm finding it's like, what am I doing? I'm accommodating everybody because of what they need when they need it, where I'm not setting boundaries or agreements or with myself, integrity with myself, which is like I don't have to react to and I know that's elementary for some people. All your people who have all your shit together, great. But for me, it's it's I get excited when I find those little things that are so ingrained without thinking that I notice it. That means my awareness is heightened, right? I am now being conscious of that behavior, what I did, and going, wait a second, this is that dude that keeps like just agreeing with everybody. This is him. Like, get your ass up here. It's like, and right? Because it's like,
Right.
enough already. You don't have to jump through hoops. You're performing again. I told you you're
Right.
enough, right? You're good. You're worthy right here, right now. And I'm looking over there because that's who I'm talking to.
Well,
But
and that was you, right? Like you texted me the other day and you're like, "Oh my god, I just got off a phone call. I can't believe how much I said I'm sorry."
oh,
Right? But that's this key popping up in the smallest ways of saying, right? This is the oppression. This is your shadow
right,
coming. And so when I always say when we know better, hopefully we do better. Because now your eyes are open. You're not blind anymore. And so now you have a choice every time this comes up to go, okay, what's the exercise I learned from this? Boundaries.
right.
And not beat yourself up for you did it. Just know, okay, you noticed it. That was great. I guarantee the next conversation, you're not going to be so apologetic.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, and I think this is so good, and this is where this shadow work is just so rich
Mm-hmm.
because it's for me, it is more of the eye-opening versus the beating up type of shadow work that I've done, where it's in the like, oh my god, I'm kicking my own ass down there,
Right.
and where the contemplation part for me is not a softer blow per se, but it just brings things into like clarity at that 2020, like, oh, that's that's who I am. That's this is my not just my design, but these are these things that keep me from it,
Mm-hmm.
and I see how much time I've spent in the shadow of oppression. And in hindsight, there's it's almost like I have this burning desire to see where has it shown up in my life. So I
Right.
have to calm my ass down because I know I can get so zealous about it that others are like, dude, like are you
Calm down.
always looking for something? Are you always looking to find out what that means? Are you always trying to tie it to somewhere? Which is also in my keys.
Right.
Which is another key. Well, we don't have to go into, but
Right.
this particular one, dude.
Well, I think in the process to this and why I like it is right. You get awareness, which leads to action, which leads to alchemizing it and turning that right. Alchemy for people who don't know is taking something and right turning lead into gold. Something that seems so unvaluable turns into something so valuable, and that's the gift of these keys is to be able to go, okay, like you said, it's more empowering, I believe, in transforming your shadow than dehumanizing and being like, great, like you said, I'm just going to beat the crap out of myself for being this. But it's like, no, I see myself, I see how I can change it. Now let's do it.
Right.
And you've done a great work. You've done a really good job at this. So, but it has not. Here's the thing. I'll put a disclaimer out there. This work is not for the faint of heart. Would you agree?
I mean, it will confront
Yeah.
every story that you have. It will confront every defense you have. It'll negate and cancel the receipts that you bring to the table. Like, look what he did, look what she did, look what he said, she said.
Yeah.
All that goes to the wayside because it brings the essence of who you are to the table. So you're right, because I think automatically there's this um, realization, that do I have enough fucking guts to look at myself?
Yeah.
So, typically people resist that, and they'll label it whatever they need to feel that they're not buying into something or, it's all resistance. But what if you were given the keys, no pun intended,
Right.
right, to, you know, all of the answers that you continually think you have, and it comes back again and again and again and again. Gene Keys has been able, for me at least, to put it front and center. And that is my work. When I stray away from it, like for instance, I'm always looking for an aha moment. It's it's the illusion like I'm doing the work.
Yeah.
So it's almost like mental masturbation, right? Like, oh my God, that podcast was like, oh Lord, my life has changed. Let me tell 20 people about it. And then I go and I tell 20 people, I even post something on my stories, and it's like, I got this revelation, and there's no fucking change in my life.
Yeah.
So there's this illusion I'm doing the work because I feel good. And like, oh, what he said was amazing. Did you hear what he said about this? And like, I got this revelation about this. And all I'm doing is swimming in the clouds. And there's no integration, there is no embodiment, there is no integration, there is any transfer to life. So this confronts you, and in the best way, because it's not, there's so much love here.
Yeah.
It explains the inner workings of yourself. So when something goes wrong, whether it be a machine or like a device or something, there's times where we have to go in and find out what are the inner workings, what's not happening behind the scenes. This is what this does for me, at least.
Yeah.
And to know what my blocks are, and then what are my innate ways of who I am that actually cancel that, is all right here in every effing area of my life. So I hate you. Okay, I'm kidding.
That's okay. I get that a lot. In fact, there's another video on my channel where that's the title. I hate you. So
It's funny is like, in my church going days, there was one time I was in a inner city church, and it was kind of had a Pentecostal type feel, right? So a lot of hallelujah, amens, and and there was this one guy when there was the sermon going on, and he would say, "Read the mail." He would say, "Read my mail," and I was, why are people reading mail? Like, and I didn't get it, so I had to ask somebody, "What are you talking about? Read my mail?" And I was told, what do you get in the mail that is private? It could be a summon, it could be IRS, it could be they're about to get your electricity cut off. I'm like, oh, Gene Keys.
yeah.
Read my mail, email, junk mail. Takes the things I put in the trash and brings it back up. I'm like, damn, all that mail. I'm like, can't get away from it.
No, that's a good analogy though, and that's it. Like that's the essence of keys. So,
and the more I defend, like, and explain it and justify it, the more it sounds so ridiculous.
well, what's funny is the more you do that, I just say, go look at your keys. That's right in there. And then you pretty much stop defending. You're just like, oh.
Yeah, and I think what's cool is that we've been able to utilize it in a way where it's just mirroring versus correcting,
Yeah.
um, which I appreciate.
Yeah, because I think that's the key, right? That is the essence of it, is to look at it and go, okay, this is where it's showing up in my life. I can see how I'm participating. Now, how do I shift that? And since this is what you inherently come here with, right? These energy blocks are inherent to your specific DNA, depending on what your chart says.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like you're going to see it show up in all areas and go, oh, because we are here on this life to learn certain things in this journey and to have experiences. And this is really that energetic blueprint of those experiences, because we grow through the difficulties. Sadly,
Right.
we're not a species that grows through like triumph.
Right. And the cool thing, Beckett, is where I see the connections with the keys. So for instance, or at least in my mind, I do. Is it the Pearl path? That's that's your work, right? And when it shows what my purpose is and what I'm here to do, because of the shadow within my Venus, right, within this attraction key, it sabotages this because I'm in the shadow in relationships. So as I want to do my work, my soul's work, right? I'm blocked because of the relationships that I have, and I'm in the shadow in that too.
Right.
So it's not that I'm bad, I'm wrong, or I'm awful, or I need help. It's just the under understanding of it all. So it's just it's I love the connection of it all and how one could impact the other, where you're not even really working on a key per se, but you'll see
Mhm.
the impact of that. So it's pretty rich. And I know this is just one key, but now we can have a code. You can just say 47.3. I start going.
Well, and I wanted to stick to one key because it makes it a little more simple. And I think everybody who don't have any idea what Gene Keys is, everybody wonders about the relationships, especially their love relationships. Why do I attract this? Why am I bumping up, especially in the world today of the dating scene the way it is? So, I'm trying to make it simple so people understand. And Joe was kind enough to come on and go, yeah, let's do this.
Cool.
So there is a whole, like he's talking about, there's 3 other pathways. There's a lot more other keys to go through. But this is just one that can really add some richness to your life and change things in profound ways if you can just deal with one. And then if you want to learn more, hit me up. There'll be a link in the description on how you could get a reading or dive deeper. And I'm going to do this hopefully weekly with different people and do different keys and get people exposed to how this can be life-changing. What would you say is if you had one words of wisdom from your reading of coming from this, what was your biggest takeaway from your session in the way Gene Keys has shaped your life since having it?
Oh my God. There are so many.
The most profound.
The most profound.
Your daughters?
My daughters. Remind me. I'm trying to remember. There's
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. I want you to answer it.
okay. Let's see here. Gosh. I think the one that's just came to mind. There are so many rich discoveries, but it was in my Pearl Path or the particular key that was that I was a teacher, and that specifically my purpose was to teach people another way to see things. Or it was, I'm I'm paraphrasing what that was. And so, interesting enough, when I was in grade school, like in the lower classes, second through fourth grade, I remember during that time I decided I wanted to be a teacher because I liked, oh, it's fourth grade. Our fourth grade teacher, Miss Strange. She was just amazing and everything. Miss Strange. Miss Strange is still alive.
Okay, right.
I'm a teacher. But I wasn't, I didn't get a degree in education. And however, I have seen myself be a teacher in life. So I see as that has come. And the idea of having them see things in another way or a different way, I can see that really come to life in the way that I have taught.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this season of my life, I get to see what that means for me. So I think that stood out a lot. Definitely this particular key was one that, of course, you mentioned I always return to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the shadow work has been coming mostly in relationships, in all relationships, family, friends, lovers, whatever it may be. So I would say those two things. What else? Yeah.
No, that's the most important. And I think if you can transform this key, all your life will change in some pretty profound ways. You know what I mean? And relationships are everything.
Yeah. There's for me, there's this undeniable like fit with the information, that, our specific blueprint,
Yeah.
uh, you know, that is just uncanny. It's where I could say, man, this is my male. I mean, this is everything. And so it's cool. And you give such good tools and questions, to continue with the contemplation of it all. So,
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on. I know
Yeah.
I'm going to try to keep these for 30 minutes just so you guys know going forward. We went 45, but that's me and Joe. Our passion. So I thank you guys for watching this. If anybody's interested, please comment, send me a DM. Any questions there are no stupid questions is my point. Ask anything you want. Joe, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And I will see you guys on the next one.